Hello, welcome back to Survival Corps. This is Josh, and here's Ray.
Hi, this is Ray from bici-libre, bicycle co-op just west of downtown LA.
Okay.
And today we're going to be prepping this bike for painting. And this is the rear end of a Gary Fisher Joshua full suspension mountain bike.
Okay.
You know, we disassembled it and started removing all the paint to get it ready for painting.
Perfect. So this is one of the first bikes we're going to start doing. It's a full bike build-up. So we're doing painting, and we're going to go through the whole process. Ray is going to be telling us all the technical knowledge about the build-up, and we'll see you at the end of the project.
Okay. There's a couple of ways that you can strip the paint off a bike. The way I'm using is a mechanical way. You're using a wire brush and a drill. You can also use a wire brush on a bench grinder or an angle grinder, whatever you have at hand. You know, you can even use a sandpaper just by hand. So today we're going to be using this method. It's the quickest way I know without using chemicals. Okay. So here we go.
So is there any safety information we should think about before we start taking on a project like this?
Whenever you grind or sand paint off a frame, there's going to be a lot of airborne particles. So it's good to have eye protection to avoid any flying debris. Check. And then also, if there's a lot of paint being going to be removed, it's usually helpful to have respirators, which is necessary in most OSHA safe environments, but this is such a little amount of paint that's left that we can do it without. Okay?
Okay, and so basic eyeglasses.
Eyeglasses,
you wear, it's a good deal. All right. Yeah. All right, so all right, let's get started.
All right, so as we see, we have most of the part already clean, and it's just a matter of removing the rest of the paint. You can see what I mean about the particles. It helps to have the piece securely held by either a clamp or a bench vise or something, so that way it doesn't move around on you, because the more stable it is, the more pressure you can apply to it. Okay, this is the same process using a bench-mounted wire brush. It's the same process as it drilled before. It's just that this will spin at higher RPMs, giving you greater clearing force for the hardest reach spots and all the stuff that's really caked on. With this piece of equipment, eye protection is a must, and sometimes even gloves, because this wire bristle is known to break off and embed itself in everything around it, so you'll end up with wires in your shirt, your gloves, your sleeves, sometimes even your face. So it's helpful to pay attention to the safety concerns and just be able to enjoy the process throughout the whole process. Okay? All right. So turning it on like so. You notice a higher RPM there, and then instead of moving the brush to the piece, you move the piece to the brush, allowing us to move it a lot quicker. Orienting the piece inside the work area might be a challenge, but there's no reason why you can't get to every piece of the paint that you can get to. As you notice, I'm standing off axis of the rotating brush, because when they break off, they'll usually spin in that direction. So if you're not in the line of fire, chances are you won't get hit. Yes, it's noisy. but it definitely is much quicker than using a regular drill. You know, we have portable versions of this equipment, which makes it even faster. With this process, it's usually helpful to think of the job in stages or parts, where you want to make sure this part is clear first, then this part, and then proceed on in a logical order. As you can tell, we cleared the bottom part already, so it's just a matter of finishing this top part and a couple of stray edges over here, and we should be ready for painting.
Okay, so we've gotten most of the paint primer that was on there off of the majority of the frame, and so now we're down to some finer details of the detailing. So I'll let Ray explain a little more about what's going on.
For fine detail work, we move back to the portable drill, and then we use a smaller brush, letting us get into the nooks and crannies here, and it makes cleaning up the fine little parts a lot easier than trying to get them underneath the big wire brush. So. As always, eye protection is a must, and with this little wire brush, and you combine them in different sizes, it allows you just to get into those little nooks and crannies.
Alright, so we finished taking off most of the primer that was left over from the original paint job, and now we're on the next stage right before applying a new coat.
Yes,
So,
okay.
right?
The last essential step before starting the new paint job is to remove all the dust and grease and whatever else, what other dirt collected on the frame when you were cleaning them up. So we use just very common degreaser you can buy at any 99-cent store, and so we want to just wipe everything down, preferably with a fresh or decent cloth, and then just let it dry, and then you're ready for painting. But
All right.
make sure you get all the little nooks and crannies, because that's where the paint will start peeling if you're not thorough about this. So
Okay,
So
so
you know-
the concern with all this, like the debris, is that debris is going to fall off and cause the paint to fall off?
yes,
Okay.
yes, you want to remove all the stuff that will interfere with the adhesion of the paint to the surface, like grease. Grease will get between paint and the surface and just slides out, you know. And then also the dust. All the dust will give you a weird finish, like it looks like sandpaper if you don't clean it all off. So, and I'm sure with the primer it'll help smooth out any imperfections in the surface. But first we gotta clean it up and clean up all these cuts and places where the grease might collect. Okay. So,
All right.
people will spray the whole frame like this and then just wipe it down. You know, sometimes in a public work area you don't want to have puddles slipping all over the place where people can slip and hurt themselves. So I usually apply the degreaser to the rag and then wipe it down that way. And that way I know that there's suitable amount of ink solvent on the frame itself and on the rag doing the job.
And this is probably a good way to save on the fluid that you're spraying out there.
Yes,
So,
yes, yes.
very
Yes.
good.
Supplies are, you know, kind of lean. This is a good way to conserve, and also keep the mess down. Because if you have to clean up all the splatter on the floor, that could be kind of troublesome when nobody wants to clean up after themselves. So, and a lot of times the solvent applied to the rag now can be used on different parts.
You get in there and work into those
All
intricate
the
parts of the
nooks
fingers.
and crannies and stuff. Yeah, you
Right.
want to make sure that you get in there. Not that it's going to be highly visible, but you know, you want to do a thorough job.
Right, I mean, it takes a lot of work to get to this point anyways. You might as well do it
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
Like my mom used to say, you don't have time to do it right the first time, but you have time to do it twice.
Right.
You know, so,
All right, yeah.
so this is the first part of the frame, you know, and this is pretty ready to go. Was stripped down of its paint like earlier, and then this is the part that we just finished cleaning up. And same thing, you want to get in here, make sure all the dust is out.
And we were talking about earlier, even though there's still a little primer in those really hard to reach places, it shouldn't be too big of a deal when we actually go to apply new primer and paint, right?
No.
As long as we clean up any loose debris.
Yes, as long as all the dust and all the debris is off the frame. Little bits of old primer really don't hurt because they do this job that the primer you're going to put on
Okay.
is going to do. They help protect the metal and make the paint stick to it a lot better.
Okay.
That's one of the major parts of the primer is to hide imperfections in the surface and to make sure that there's a good bond between any surface and the new paint that's coming on. So.
All right. And so since we're here cleaning up and got a little bit of time, this frame, this is steel or this is aluminum?
This is a composite. It
Okay.
has the front part of it is aluminum, probably 6061.
Okay.
Or aircraft grade aluminum or 7005.
Okay.
Those are the two major ones they use. And this back part is probably chromoly. It's a mixture of chrome and steel, and making it lighter steel, but just a shinier version of it.
Okay.
Yeah. So then joining these together, these will be joined using bolts and different elements that hold everything together. Some big screws, a spring that will allow it to. It's right there. And this is how the frame is going to look. This. It's upside down right now, but you get the image of what we're working on here. Okay.
And so this is interesting because we this shock here, this is allowing the fluctuation in the bag,
Yes.
right? All right, so some of the finer details, you know, that are a little difficult to get in with your fingers, you can use a wheel spoke,
Yeah.
right? A wheel spoke or like a Q-tip or something to get into these areas. Like this bike happens to have some artistic finer details on it. So, you know, I just wrapped it in the cloth or even just without the cloth just to kind of scratch at those harder clumps of debris or metal as we were grinding everything down. All right, so now we're ready to start throwing primer on. All right, so now we're ready to start painting the primer. If you want to talk a little bit about the process of applying, how to apply paint evenly, and what this interesting tool is that you're using, because it's just a regular spray paint can, and it seems like you got something to make it a little easier on there.
Sure. So we have your basic white primer here, and we're going with white. So when we put color over it, it stands out more. The lighter the base coat, the more vibrant the color is.
Okay.
We can use a red or a black, but it tends to mute everything down.
Okay.
So when you paint any object, you usually want to paint it in like smooth, even strokes, overlapping half the stroke with the previous and the next one, so that way you get a even coat over it.
Okay.
And you want to spray in light coats and let them dry, and then in case there's a run or something, you sand it out and then hit it again with the next coat. And then after one or two passes, you should have a fairly uniform, even coat around the
Okay.
frame.
So it's better to do lighter coats repeatedly than try and get one solid run. Okay.
If you put the paint on too thick, it tends to drip and sag, so you'll get all these weird runs and stuff on your frame, and then you have to go back and sand those out and then start
Okay.
priming again. So this way, it lets you have more control over the process. Okay.
Okay.
So, and then a lot of people will just use the spray can with their hands, regular fingers and stuff. I find that like a add-on spray gun nozzle gives you more control, and your fingers tire out less because you're not constantly pushing down on the nozzle with your fingers. So I always use one of these when I'm painting. It just makes my life easier.
Okay.
Make sure you agitate the can for about a minute. Once you hear the little marble inside start moving around, and make sure the paint is all properly mixed up. Because if you don't, you'll be spraying spurts of pure air, then globs of paint, then more air, and so this way it ensures that the paint goes on evenly.
All right. So even with the simplest process, it's worth it to take your time and prep correctly and detail. You know, go in slow and do the detail.
Yeah, God's in the details. So
all right.
Let's see. So here's the first pass. So Okay, we'll come back. Make sure you have something even. Later on, you can go back and fill in all the light spots where the overlap is not very, consistent. And we finish there. So, for demonstration's sake, we are doing this without respirators, without eye protection, which is usually essential to have in any spray environment, because these paints can be pretty toxic, especially to younger bodies, younger humans. So you want to make sure that you spray in a well-ventilated area with good airflow going through. And if you have to spray in a confined place, make sure you have your respirator. And it helps to wear gloves to protect your skin in case you're sensitive to some of the chemicals that the spray paint has. And then just take your time. Do it in a slow, orderly fashion, and you'll be surprised at the results you get. Okay? And then here we go. When you're painting your frame, you want to make sure that you have something that holds the frame in place without actually being part of the frame. So that way you don't end up with any lines being blocked by the stand. So here I have the front part of the frame suspended on a C-post that allows me to pivot the frame around and get to all the angles I need to get. When you're painting your bike, make sure you paint directly on axis with the frame, because otherwise you will end up with a frame that's painted and has a stripe down the middle that's not painted. So remember to be able to paint around your frame so you get all the parts necessary. Okay?
It is especially important with frames like this that pinch down into angles.
This has so many different turns and angles that it helps to, a lot of professional paint shops will have like a schedule how to paint a certain frame or certain body, and they'll say, okay, you paint the panels first, you paint the top decks, and that way they always follow that schedule and you get everything painted. Because a lot of times when you're doing this the first time, you will miss certain parts, and then you'll look at it later on and go, oh, it's not
and
finished.
You've already painted that final coat, and then
Yes.
you've got silver still. All right.
So, just continue painting all day. Just be careful that you keep the spray applications light and quick. You don't want to concentrate the spray in one single spot for too long, because you'll form a little puddle and it'll drip. So keep the spray can moving. It helps you have adequate lighting so you can see exactly where the light spots are going to be. You want to make sure that the whole frame is covered evenly.
So these light spots, they will show through into the final coats?
It either come out as poor paint adhesion with the final coats, or if it's a light color, then the spots that were light in the primer will come out as dark spots in the frame itself. It's a final paint job. So you have to make sure you cover all these spots, and having adequate lighting, usually daylight or good fluorescent lighting will be enough. It helps to have a tool or a stand that lets you reposition the frame in various directions. So that way when you're painting a frame and you can't reach certain angles, you can always twist the frame, and then you can get all these weird angles that you couldn't reach before. Right now we're using our bicycle repair stand, which is the standard equipment in any bike shop. These are made by Park, and this is the standard in any shop that you go into. You'll find this piece of equipment, and it keeps you from having to work bent over all day long, where you come out looking like a hunchback at the end of the day because your back is just shot. All right. As you can see here, we have finished applying the primer to both parts of the frame. Carefully paying attention to details such as the cable stops on this side. We had to make sure that the paint was in there, all of those spots and stuff, so that way we won't have any bare spots later on. And next step is applying the final paint that we want. You know, if there was a lot of imperfections in the frame, then at this point we would sand down, and then repaint with primer to make sure that it's all smooth, and then we would apply the final paint. But I think we're ready to go with paint right now. This frame was in pretty good condition.
Yeah, I think we got lucky with that. So, all right. So the next video we'll be applying paint, and thank you for watching.
Yeah, thank you. See you next time.